Alright guys, so today we are going to get into rational expressions. So when we simplify a radical expression, what we do first is we need to look at factoring so we can cancel. I want to make a little note, so I'm going to move this down for a second. I want you to write this someplace on your paper. We can only cancel multiplication. So even though it looks like we have the same number, or the same of something on top and bottom here, so for example x squared, because those are being held together with subtraction with other terms, I can't cancel it. I can only cancel things with multiplication. So because of that, I want something that looks to this extent. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to factor. Yay! So I got to factor each piece, top and bottom, to see if anything cancels out. So what I look for is my biggest x. I've got x squared, so since I have squareds, I'm going to have 2 parentheses. I'm going to ask myself what multiplies to x squared. Good, x and x. Next, I'm going to ask myself what multiplies to negative 9, but adds to a negative 8. All right, well, let's think of what breaks down into our 9. What multiplies to 9? We've got 9 and 1. We've got 3 and 3. Now, I know we need a negative someplace, but we need to determine which one of these is going to work before I stick a negative, because I don't want to stick. You never want to prematurely put a negative sign someplace. So 9 and 1 or 3 and 3. Remember, I'm trying to get to a negative 8. Good, it's not going to be the 3 and 3. So I want a 9, a positive. I want to multiply to a negative 9 and add to a negative 8. So that means I want more negatives. So I want a negative 9 plus 1, because negative 9 plus 1 will give me negative 8. So in those missing spots, I'm just going to go ahead and add in there my x minus 9. Excuse me, I'm going to add in there my negative 9 and my positive 1. Okay, let's go ahead and do the bottom now. Again, x squared, so 2 sets of parentheses. Well, what multiplies to x squared? Good, x and x. Okay. Now this time, we're going to multiply to a 72, add to a negative 17. So the idea with these, one of the hints I want to give, is you're going to want to try and get something that matches above. So let's try one of these numbers. Got to make sure I don't roll my cat over. Okay. So logically, if I did the 1, yes, 1 goes into 72. But is that going to get me anywhere near 17? Okay, so with my handy dandy calculator, I'm going to take 72 divided by 9 and see what I get. Well, I get 8. Well, 9 and 8 somehow get me to a 17. Yeah, and I want both negative because I'm multiplying to a positive number, but adding to a negative. So the only way to get adding to a negative, if you multiply to a positive, is 2 negatives. 7 minus an 8, 5 minus a 9. Now that I have stuff with multiplication, because remember, parentheses of multiply, I can cancel out anything that's the same. Well, I have an x minus 9 on both the top and the bottom. And it has to be in top and bottom. It can't just be 1 on top, 1 over here, 2 on top, whatever. It has to be 1 on top, 1 on bottom. It's like saying 3 over 3. 3 over 3 will reduce down to a 1. Well, x minus 9 over x minus 9 will also reduce down to 1. So my final answer, because I have x plus 1 and x minus 8, those aren't going to cancel out anymore, is, I guess I'll have to clean that, x plus 1 over x minus 8. Now it asks me to state any restrictions. So question, can I divide by 0? Hint, think of my sign in the room. No, I can't divide by 0. So when I can't divide by 0, what I want to do is take a look at the bottom in the factored form from the original problem. I had 8. I had x minus 8 and x minus 9. Well, if I don't want the bottom to be 0, what I'm going to do is plug in numbers that would make it to be 0, and I say x, I don't want x to be that number. I lost my earring. There it is. So a restriction is something that would make my fraction 0. We don't like zeros in the bottom, so we were going to pick strategic numbers to make the bottom not be equal to 0. Well, essentially here, color I have not used yet. In order to set that to be equal to 0, I would, or figure out what it would be when it would be 0, I'd set it equal. So if I'd add 8, I don't want x to be equal to 8, because I don't want that bottom to be 0. So I don't want x to be 8. I let this part be not equal to 0, because remember, I don't want it 0. X is not equal to 9. So again, restrictions are what would make the bottom 0. Alright. Next problem. So again, we're going to go ahead and start by factoring. I've got x squareds on top and bottom, so I have 2 parentheses. What multiplies to x squared? X times x. Okay. Now what multiplies to 50 adds to 15? Well, I got 2 and 25, but does that give me 15? Nope. What about 5 and 10? Yep, 5 and 10 get me to 15. And I want a positive 15 and a positive 50, so both of them are going to be plus and a plus. Okay, now I'm going to multiply to 100, negative 100, but add to 0. So think about what's going to add to 0. Something that cancels itself out, right? So if something cancels itself out, it's got to be that same number. If it's that same number, it's that same number twice, which is a perfect square. Is 100 a perfect square? It is. What multiplies to 100? 10 and 10. But I want to add to 0 and multiply to a negative. So if I'm multiplying to a negative number, don't I need one negative and one positive? Isn't negative 10 plus 10 0? Do I not have a middle term? Cool. So then I want to cancel out the stuff that's the same. So I have an x plus 10 and an x plus 10 on top and bottom. So I'm left with x plus 5 over x minus 10. I do not want my x to be positive 10 or a negative 10, because that would make my bottom 0. Okay. Now, even though I see I have x squared on top, do I have 3 terms? Nope. So because I don't have 3 terms, I can't do the 2 sets of parentheses. So what will be able to divide out from x squared and 4x? Good, an x. What is x squared divided by x? Good, x. 4 divided by x just gives me a positive 4. Okay, taking a look at the bottom, I'm going to have 2 sets of parentheses. I don't know why it's wanting to be like this today. So what multiplies to a negative 36? I got 3 to 12. That doesn't give me a 5. I got 6 and 6. But that doesn't give me to 5. What the heck? I've also got 4 and 9. Can 4 and 9 get me to 5? Okay, well I want to multiply to a negative 36 and add to a negative 5. So which of those 2 numbers need to be negative? The 4 or the 9? Good, the 9. So I have x minus 9, and I have x plus 4. So my x plus 4's cancel out. So for my answer, I am left with x over x minus 9. My restrictions are x cannot be equal to negative 4 or a positive 9. Woo! We did it. Alright, on this next one, it's a little tricky. Am I used to seeing my x values come second, or am I used to seeing all my variables come first? Sorry, my heater just kicked off. Now I'm cold again. So I'm used to seeing my x values come first. So because of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the top so that my x value comes first. So when I do that, I have a negative x because it has to say the same signs, plus 2. So that subtraction sign is attached to the x, so therefore it follows with. Well, I don't like having negative x's. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and divide out a negative 1. Just like I could divide out an x in the problem before on top. Because everyone has one, I can go ahead and take out a negative 1. When I divide that out, I'm left with a positive x and a negative 2. On bottom, we know we have x times x will give me x squared. What will multiply to a negative 4 and add to 0? Two and 2. I need one negative and one positive. So my x minus 2's cancel. I'm left with a negative 1 over x plus 2. And I don't want x to be equal to plus or minus 2. Because remember, that would make my denominator 0, and that makes me unhappy. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at this next one. So, what can come out of the top? An x. What's left over? Good. Uh-oh, my bottom looks scary. It's not the right way. I need to fix it. So I have negative x plus 6. So what do I want to divide out of that? Get a negative 1. So I'm left with x minus 6. So my x minus 6 and my x minus 6 cancel out. So I'm left with x divided by negative 1. What is x divided by negative 1? Well, it's simply just a negative x. So negative x is all I have left here, where our x cannot be equal to 6. Okay, this next one's a little trickier. What we see is we have numbers in front of my x's, my x squareds. So my first thought is, can I divide everything by that initial front number? If so, I'm going to start by dividing that first. So on the top, can I take out a 4 from everything? So I'm left with x squared minus x minus 6. On the denominator, can I take a 2 out of everything? Good. So I'm left with an x squared minus 4 plus 3. Okay, next step is, let's go ahead and factor those guys to get stuff to cancel, because right now I still don't have anything that's going to cancel. I don't have any like terms. So my 4 is going to stay there, and I'm just going to go ahead and create 2 parentheses on top. My 2 is going to stay there, and I'm going to go ahead and create 2 parentheses on the bottom. X times x will give me x squared. What will multiply to a negative 6 and add to a negative 1? I've got 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Okay, that's it. So what combination of that is going to give me a negative 1? Negative 3 plus 2. Okay, taking a look at the bottom, we know that x squared is x times x. What will multiply to a 3, add to a negative 4? Well, the only thing that goes into 3 is 3 and 1. But I want a negative 4. So they need to both be negative. So I can go ahead and cancel out my x's. My x plus minus 3's. And hey, isn't 4 divided by 2 just 2? So can't I also do that at the same time? So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and that's positive, so he's going to stay on top. So I have 2 times x plus 2 over x minus 1. X cannot be, oops, not what I wanted, right? X cannot be equal to 1 or 3. So first steps first, can I divide everything by 3 on top? Nope. So what I have to do is my house method, or my T method. So to factor with T method, I take the first number times the last number, which is 30. And I look for 2 numbers that will multiply to 30, add to 17. Well, I've got 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10. Do we have a combination yet that would give me the 17? Yeah, my 2 and my 15. 2 plus 15 will give me 17. 2 times 15 gives me 30. So I'm going to write my 3x squared, followed by my 15x, followed by my 2x, plus 10. So I replace that middle number with the 2 numbers that we just found. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the first two terms and ask myself, what can divide out of both of those two? What can go into 3x squared and 15x? Well, by golly, a 3 can divide out. Can I divide out any x's? Sure I can. So I'm left with x plus 5. Then I'm going to leave a little space and write x plus 5. Taking a look at the last two, 2x divided by x is what? 10 divided by 5 is what? Good, 2. So the answer goes in the blank space. And the top so far is x plus 5 times 3x plus 2. So that's our top. Now we need to do our denominator. Can anything divide out of the denominator? Nope. So on top of my big capital T, I'm going to put the multiplication of the first number with the last number. So 5 times negative 20, which is 100. And that's a negative 20, so it's a negative 100. So what multiplies to negative 100 adds to a 21? Well, we got 2 and 50, nothing and 3, 4 and 25, 5 and 20, 6 doesn't go in, 7 doesn't go in, 8 doesn't go in, 9 doesn't go in, 10 goes in. And then go back to where we started. You see a combination that could get me to a 21? Yeah. Okay, so I want 4 and 25, but I want a positive 21 in this case, so I'm going to take 25 minus 4. So I have 5x squared plus 25x minus 4x minus 100. I'm going to move that over a little bit. I don't want to get into our workspace for the next problem. So what will divide into 25x and 5x? 5 and an x, so I'm left with x plus 5. I'm going to leave a little space and write x plus 5. Oops, this gave me had a boo-boo. I did this when I helped someone too. This should be a 20, because my original problem was minus 20. That's what happens when you can't look at the problem. So taking a look at the last two numbers, what's negative 4 divided by x? What's negative 20 divided by 5? Negative 4. So I have x plus 5 and 5x minus 4. So let's go ahead and put my fraction back together. My top was x plus 5 times 3x plus 2. And we just got my denominator to be x plus 5 and 5x minus 4. So those guys are going to cancel. I'm left with 3x plus 2 over 5x minus 4. Okie dokie. Taking a look at the top, if I only have one x, how many sets of parentheses am I going to have? 1. What'll go into 6 and 21? Three. So I'm left with 2x plus 7. Remember, we don't have to always divide out the entire thing if it can't go in there. So I can't take out 6 because 6 doesn't go into 21. So I'm taking a look at the bottom. Uh-oh, nothing will divide out. So I have to do my big capital T. On the top of the big capital T will be 42 times 2. Excuse me, negative 42 times 2, which is negative 84. And we want to find something that'll go into 5. Well, we know 2 and 42, but that's way too big. That's not going to give me a 5. 84 divided by 3 gives me 28. 84 divided by 4 gives me 21. Divided by 5, nope. 84 divided by 6. 6 and 15. 84 divided by 7. 7 and 12. 84 divided by 8. 84 divided by 9. 84 divided by 10. 84 divided by 11. 84 divided by 12. Okay, I'm back to where I just got. So, somewhere on here has to be my answer. Well, what will multiply to negative 84 that I'll add to 5? This isn't going to work. That's way too big. That's too big. It's still too big. Nope, gets me to 8. It has to be these guys. Well, if I'm multiplying to a negative, that means I need a negative number someplace. So do I want a negative 7 or a negative 12? Good, I want a negative 12. So I have 2x squared. I'm going to switch colors to not run into the stuff to the left. 2x squared minus 12x plus 7x minus 42. What can divide out of 2 and 12? 2 and an x, because I can have the x squared with her. So I get x minus 6. Leave a little space, right? X minus 6. What is 7 divided by x? Excuse me, let me try that again. What's 7x divided by 7? What is 7x divided by x? It's negative 42 divided by negative 6. Ooh, 7. So I get x minus 6 and 2x plus 7. So my top was 3 divided by 3 times 2x. 2x plus 7. We just got my bottom to be x minus 6 and 2x plus 7. So those guys are going to cancel out. I'm left with 3 over x minus 6. We're going to do 9. You are going to do 10. So I don't like having cubes. So what I try and do is get them so they're not 3. And by cube I mean an exponent of a 3. So can't I pull out an x on both the top and the bottom? And that gives me x squared minus 9. And on the bottom, I like my x's to come first. So I have a negative 9x and I have plus 27. Well, I still have something squared on top, so it means I should at least try and factor it. So I have 2 sets of parentheses. X times x gives me x squared. What gives me a negative 9? And adds to 0. We've done one just like this already. Multiplies to a 9, adds to 0. Good. Plus and minus 3. On the denominator now, what can come out between a -9 and a 27? A -9, which gives me x minus 3. Ooh, cancels. So I'm left with x times x plus 3 divided by -9. Okay, you can do it. You can do it. Pause and do number 10. Woo! I hope you got it. All right, that's it.